On many levels, Courtney Paris is to Oklahoma what Dawn Staley used to be at Virginia. Speaking of Virginia, Debbie Ryan, now beginning her 4th decade as the head coach at the Virginia women, didn't win 600 games and become a Hall of Famer by being timid. Last year, she made a very bold decision to change a planned summer trip with her team to Italy into a unique experience to Western Africa. At first, as you might imagine, there was considerable opposition to the revised itinerary, but now there are grateful players who claim the experience was nothing short of life-transforming.
You can only do an international tour every 4 years. Debbie Ryan, head women's basketball coach, University of Virginia. And I just didn't hesitate because I knew that going to Africa was going to be a life-changing experience for my players.
When she was saying we're going to Africa, I was like, oh no, we don't have to go to Africa, because they were like saying we're going to go to Senegal or Italy. So I was like, oh, I want us to go to Italy, not Africa. Aisha Mohammed, 3rd year at the University of Virginia.
People were poo-pooing the idea of going to Africa because we had to get vaccinations. So I just made it an executive decision that, you know, this was going to be something very different. It was going to be something that I thought the University of Virginia and players from the University of Virginia would really, really appreciate.
I've been to Africa one time before, but it was with USA Basketball, so I didn't really get to see anything. Sharnae Zoll, 4th year, University of Virginia. And I knew that this time, especially being with Coach, that we were going to get to see a lot of things, and it was going to be more of a learning experience, a learning about myself and also about the culture in Africa.
This was a very different part of Africa. It's a very depressed part of Africa, and it was, the greatest thing about it was as we drove on the streets of Africa, it was crazy traffic, but you could see the life of an African woman who had to carry tons and tons of fruit on her head to get to the stand where she was going to sell it all day long. And sometimes there were lots of kids running around with no shoes on, and it was just an incredible experience for our players to see that and to experience that and to see how happy the people were.
We went to go see a little safari, which was, for me personally, it was kind of scary because I don't like outdoors. We saw a rhinoceros, we saw the warthogs.
The first thing I thought of was Lion King when I saw the warthogs and the giraffes and like the rhinoceros.
Monica Wright, 2nd year, University of Virginia.
Everybody's like, look, look. You can really just go out and touch it. You know, you're just right there with it and you see it like life size. I mean, they really are like extremely like beautiful animals.
We actually took a ferry from Dakar over to Gorée Island. And Gorée Island is a slave trade island where slaves would be brought in and they would be staying on Gorée Island. And our trip there was just a very, very emotional.
Well, I think the biggest thing that struck me was that the island itself was so gorgeous and the houses were painted all different colors, and it was really, really sad that such a beautiful island had had such a tragic history. Jana Hardig, 2nd year, University of Virginia. Most of the slaves that ended up in the Americas actually went through Gorée Island.
There was a man who narrated everything, who gave us the history and all the historical background of it. He was speaking in French, and I have no clue what he was saying in French, but he was so emotional. You couldn't do anything but have tears come to your eyes because of what you saw in the small rooms that children and infants were being held in.
It was very moving, you know, to step back, and we're part of our young ladies' lives as they grow up. Jeff House, assistant coach, women's basketball, the University of Virginia. And to step back and watch them see firsthand the cells where slaves were held, or to go down the plank to the door of no return where slaves were sent away from their families for the first time.
Like, I just stood in front of it because it was like a nice breeze that came through, and it was like so pretty to look out. But then I think of like all those people who had either died or like people, like the slaves try to get away and swim in the water and would get eaten by sharks.
Brittany Milner, 3rd year, University of Virginia.
You could actually imagine the families being separated and how difficult it was. And there were a lot of tears that day, and it was very, very difficult, very draining, I'll be honest with you.
I'm not an emotional person, but I had tears in my eyes, you know, just thinking of what my ancestors and my teammates' ancestors had to go through in order for me to have the freedom that I have today.
To know that human beings were put through that kind of pain and suffering, that it's just not something that you can really grasp fully, just to think that that really happened. And it was very moving to be there.
Tara McKnight, 5th year at the University of Virginia.
We experienced things that a lot of people don't get to experience, and we got to experience that as a whole, as a group.
Lendra Littles, 3rd year at the University of Virginia.
to share those emotions and go home, and we'll go back to our rooms and say, well, what did you think? And talk about that on the bus. And, you know, if we wanted to cry, we could cry. Or being there over on Canary Island, that's something that, I mean, wow, to do that together, that was fantastic.
When we run into a tough spot, there's nothing that can separate us now, because we know that there are people out there that just don't have what we have. And I think our players are just, they're so together, and the bonding that took place on that trip was, you couldn't duplicate it. It was just extraordinary.
When we spend so much time together, you learn so many different things, and so many different personalities come out, and you know, you can carry that on to the basketball court. Paulisha Callum, second year, University of Virginia. We all have each other's back, and we know we're not just there just to, you know, have our own shine or to put someone else down. We're just here to, you know, look out for each other.
This team, I don't think anything could pull it apart. I don't think anything at all. I think we're here for each other, and we love coming back from breaks because we love to see each other, and you can just see the love on this team.
What's my job?
To love us.
All right, what's yours?
To love each other.
Team on three, 1, 2, 3.
Team!
House!